A Vampire Survivor-like game that goes further than its inspiration with the unique spin of actually giving control to the player. Welcome everyone, StealthyShiroean here, and today I'm bringing you my first impressions of Hordes of Hunger. After publishing my recent Elderborn review, I was curious as to what Hyperstrange was up to these days, and found that they were working on a curious title. Hordes of Hunger seeks to bring the Vampire Survivor formula of facing off against endless enemies while using a variety of random buffs. Then pair that with a fully controllable character, meaning that players take the reins of when to attack, dodge, parry, and even jump in a 3D environment. What I played was fun, and I'm here to share my thoughts, so without further ado, let's get to it. When it comes to the presentation, I don't really have that much to say. The graphics did what they needed to, but weren't particularly impressive. The oppressive atmosphere was brought to life with the game's rundown city and deserted graveyard hub area. The monsters, while well-designed, didn't feel that unique and felt fairly standard when it comes to undead-looking stuff. One thing I was a bit surprised to find was the main gameplay area was kind of small. I think many Survivor-likes tend to have larger areas with places you can unlock as you go. I could be wrong about that since I'm not that well-versed with the genre though. Alternatively, I was scratching my head as to why the hub area was so big with barely anything there to interact with in many of the areas. Although, I assume throughout the game you have to save more people who end up populating the space with their own dialogue and services. So in each case, it probably was just because it was a demo and not the actual full game. In regards to the voice work, the couple actors they used for the side characters seemed fine. However, I couldn't help but feel the main character felt a bit lifeless at times, but maybe that was the point.
Father, is it possible that there are people still out there, you know, in their right mind, not affected by the beast curse?
It is possible, yes. Why?
I'm just wondering, what should I do if I were to meet someone out there? After all, my main goal is to hunt down the beast's guardian. I'm not sure if I should distract myself with anything else.
Every soul is worth saving, particularly in the wake of recent events. Yet it falls upon you to decide whether to undertake this endeavor. These are times of trial.
She seemed like a focused individual who may be a bit unempathetic, so that might explain her serious demeanor. Overall, everything here seemed fine, if not altogether memorable. My first impressions with the story were about the same sentiments. From what I could gather, an entity, known as the Beast, has somehow corrupted the land and has turned many people into mindless monsters. Mira is a young woman who can resist this corruption and is the only one who could stop it, I think. Alongside her is an old man known as Father, who seems to act as Mira's guide and is also the one who can bring her back to life every time she dies. There's also Mother, who says nothing but cooks Mira food. And eventually you meet Roderick, who I think is some sort of scribe or minstrel, and he's just there. The story is told primarily through conversations with these various individuals and reading the lore in the codex. If there were any cutscenes or anything else, then it wasn't present in the demo. That said, I was surprised at how much voice dialogue there was in between runs. I do wonder if the game will be able to keep that pace throughout, or if a lot of stuff will be front-loaded and then you'll have several runs where no one has anything to say to you until you progress. Basically, it's too early to tell what I think about the story, but so far, once again, nothing stood out to me.
That song.
However, the gameplay is where this game really shines. As mentioned, it's a game like Vampire Survivors. Though there are massive amounts of enemy spawns that get cut down from your area of effect buffs and your blade. Although, players can do more than simply move around and select their buffs. In Hordes of Hunger, you have control over slashing your sword, dodging, and parrying enemies. When said like that, it sounds a bit silly since this type of control is fairly standard, but it's something different to the genre. Now, I will say the movement did feel off at times. You can't jump over certain things I'd expect, which led to awkward moments of not being able to clear a railing or something, but the main issue was the camera control is a bit finicky. I originally played with the controller and felt that it was kind of all over the place even after messing with the sensitivity, I switched over to mouse and keyboard and the experience felt a lot better, but still didn't feel entirely right. However, I just got used to it. Mira is an agile fighter and can dash, sidestep, and parry her enemies. To be honest, I wasn't quite sure the difference between dashing and sidestepping, other than the obvious being a dash went further than a sidestep. I usually found myself alternating between the two since the dash had a short cooldown, and I had buffs that would activate for both actions. Parrying was something I didn't really do that much. I did eventually learn to time it better, but for the most part, I thought it was almost always more advantageous to dodge out of the way. It was slightly confusing because there would be multiple enemies popping off to parry, and Mira would snap to them whenever she parried, being slightly disorienting. Every time Mira levels up in a run, the player gets a choice between 3 different buffs. They can be simple buffs that grant more health, attack speed, physical damage, etc. And then there's buffs that can augment various abilities like applying a lightning AoE blast when doing a jump attack, or providing healing when you dash by enemies. In addition, there are also the AoE attacks that trigger every few seconds that are staples in this genre. Once you stack them up, it can get really devastating for your enemies. Actually, the difficulty is something that I wanted to talk about because I found the game to be far too easy. It could be that this was just a demo and early in the game, however, in my experience with it, I only died once in the very beginning. Between my upgrades that I purchased from the hub area and my own synergies, I got to one point in a run where I could stand still and the enemies couldn't touch me. I did get close to dying a few times, but it was very easy to start playing more defensively since I could take out the objectives at my own pace. Killing easy enemies to gain experience so that I could level up and hope to get something that would help me was my go-to in those situations. I almost always chose some sort of healing buff, so managing health became almost effortless. As much as I hate timers, I think this is one of those rare instances where a timer might be helpful to deter this kind of gameplay and force the player to take more risks in order to complete the quests. However, maybe the later game gets much harder, so this won't be necessary. Before I jump into my final thoughts, please consider giving this video a like if you enjoyed it, as that helps me out greatly with the YouTube algorithm gods. I spent a bit over 2 hours with the demo, and I greatly enjoyed my time with it. The game was a fun concept that I absolutely love. Because of the really random nature of these games and the constant repetition, I didn't think I'd care for it, but the devs' decision to put the control of the action into the player's hands was a smart move. I don't really have any final suggestions for the devs other than things I said previously. I think one thing I'd want to reiterate though is improving the camera. While using a mouse made the experience smoother, it wasn't entirely without flaws. The camera is probably the biggest thing holding the gameplay back for me at the moment. If any of this looks interesting to you, then check out the demo or wait for the early access release in May. However, if you're more of a wait for the full release kind of person, well then supposedly there's a 6-month development time until full release from early access, according to their Steam page. So we should be able to expect a complete 1.0 before the end of the year if things go as planned. And if you do play the demo, then let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't, then let me know if it looks like something you'd be interested in, or if you have any other questions. I hope this video helped you in some small way, and if it did, then please consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, or whatever it is you feel like doing. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.